Hi friends, I'm Abby and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking you through 10 of my most anticipated releases for the months of April, May and June. So these are all books that I'm really excited for. Some of them are books that are continuations in the series, some of them are standalones by authors that I've read before, some of them are completely new to me. So these are the ones that I am really looking forward to that are coming out in the next few months. Going through in date order, the first book that I am really intrigued about is The Light of the Midnight Stars by Rena Rosner. And I have not read her previous book. I've seen it around, it's The Sisters of the Winterwood, but I've been really intrigued by it, but I haven't got around to reading it yet. But this one sounds really interesting, and I guess, not gonna lie, the cover did intrigue me. It was the cover. I'm sorry, it was the cover. And that it's been published by Orbit, and Orbit have been doing so well lately. I've pretty much been loving everything that Orbit has been publishing. So I feel as though I'm like, oh, Orbit's got another book coming out. Definitely gravitating towards that because loving all the Orbit releases. So those were the first two things that piqued my interest. But then I looked into it a little bit more, and I hear that this is a fairy tale-esque story, which is mixing history with fantasy and Jewish folklore. So I just really liked the sound of that. I mean, I love fairy tale retelling, so that really piqued my interest. And so you have this family in the Hungarian wilderness, and then when a fateful decision to help an outsider ends in an accusation of witchcraft, fires blaze, forcing them to flee and abandon their magic and settle into a new way of life. But a dark fog is making its way across Europe and will in the end reach even those who thought they could run from it. Each of the sisters will have to make a choice and change the future of their family forever. It was the fairy tale and the mixing of genres from history with fantasy and folklore and magic, and that's what really sold me to it. I haven't read that many Jewish inspired fantasy stories, so I think it'd be really interesting to see how that aspect is interwoven into the tale, because I don't think there's that much Jewish representation in fiction, at least from what I have read. So I'm really interested in seeing that. The other April release that I am very excited about is Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and this is coming out on the 20th of April, and I am so excited. This is the third book in the From Blood and Ash series, which I have loved. I read the first and the second book last year and absolutely devoured them, and I am so excited for this third book's release. The second book ended on a pretty big cliffhanger, so I've been really anticipating this third book. In this book, you're following a main character, Poppy, and her guard, Hawk, and it is very much a fantasy romance between the two, but it definitely, I'd say it's pretty even between the fantasy aspects and the romance aspects, that it definitely satisfies that, Sarah J. Maas itch if you are feeling deprived after A Court of Silver Flames. But I really liked the world, I really liked the different magical creatures that are explored in it, and I really liked the characters as a whole and their relationship dynamic, and the way that Hawk starts off as her guard and then things progress. So we're in a pretty different place now going into the third book than we were in the first book, but I'm very excited for this release. I can't wait to read it, and I've got quite a few friends that I'm going to be buddy reading it with when it comes out, and we're all really excited to read it together, and it's such a nice experience reading it with friends and gushing about it and having theories and everything. I'd say the second book is a little bit slow and a lot more character driven, so I'm hoping that this third book has a bit more plot to it, because we've now had a lot of the world building, we've had a lot of the character development, so I feel as though this third book might have a bit more action and plot to it. But I'm so excited for it, and yes, that's one that I'm super excited for. But then moving into May, on the 4th of May, there is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. So this is a new book by him. I have read both of his books. I have read The Martian and Artemis. The Martian easily being my favourite between the two, but I'm definitely intrigued in seeing what he comes out with next. So this is a standalone sci-fi book. From what I've understood from the synopsis, is that you're following a main character, Ryland Grace, and he is the sole survivor on a desperate last-minute mission. And I believe he's woken up and he's in space, and the people that he is surrounded by are dead, and he's been asleep for a very long time, and now he has this mission, and I think his memories are a bit foggy because he's been asleep for so long. I mean, I really like the way that Andy Weir, especially in The Martian, interweaves the space talk with the science talk, and the way it's relatable. His main character is generally quite comedic, so I'm hoping that this character will be comedic as well, and I'm definitely intrigued by seeing where this goes. So this is saying it's a part scientific mystery, part dazzling interstellar journey Project Hail Mary is a tale of discovery, speculation and survival to rival The Martian while taking us to places it never dreamed of going. I'm very excited to see how he does this story and seeing where he goes. I'm happy that the main character is male. That's my issue with Artemis. I wasn't too fan of the female main character. She did not seem female to me. So hopefully having this male protagonist back will help this work. One of the books that I probably will be picking up on release day is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I love pretty much everything that I read by John Gwynne, so this is no surprise. This is the Shelf Space Buddy Read pick for the month of May, and I am guest hosting this with Alan from the Library of Alexandria, and we're all so excited about this book. Like, so excited. So this is a book set in a completely new world for John Gwynne, so it's completely separate from The Faith and the Fallen. So if you haven't read any John Gwynne before, then you are welcome to join us for this buddy read, because you don't need to have read any of his previous works. And this is a Norse-inspired fantasy. People have said that The Faith and the Fallen is Viking-inspired, and it's more Celtic inspired, but The Shadow of the Gods he's definitely said that this one is Viking inspired. I haven't looked too much into the plot of it. I've just gone, it's John Gwynne, I'm sure I'm going to love it. And the cover with the dragon, I'm like, oh, dragons, yes, I need more dragons in my life that are actually good dragons in books. So hopefully John Gwynne does the dragons well. Is a Norse-inspired world packed with myth, magic and bloody vengeance. So after the gods warred and drove themselves to extinction, the cataclysm of their fall shattered the land. Now a new world is rising where power-hungry Jarls feud and monsters stalk the woods and mountains. A world where the bones of the dead gods still hold great power for those brave or desperate enough to seek them out. Now as whispers of war echo across the mountains and fjords, fate follows in the footsteps of three people, a huntress on a dangerous quest, a noble woman who is rejected, privilege in pursuit of battle fame, and a thrall who seeks vengeance among the famed mercenaries known as the Bloodsworn. All three will shape the fate of the world as it once more falls under the shadow of the gods. I mean, I really like the sound of those three protagonists. They all sound like right up my street, and I trust in John Gwynne that I will love the characters. I will love what's going on in this world. I will fall in love with it. I am sure. I have high hopes for this book. And I'm really looking forward to discussing this with everyone on the Shelf Space Discord and doing the live show with Alan. On the 11th of May, there is People We Meet on Vacation, which is a new book by Emily Henry. I really liked Beach Read, so I was really keen to pick this up. I actually have an arc of this on NetGalley, so I'll probably be getting to this a little bit before then. It was my love of Beach Read that has prompted me to pick up her new romance, and I believe that this is about two people, and they have been friends for years, but they live in separate places, and then 1 week a year they meet up and have a holiday together. And then the book is set, and it's saying that 2 years ago they had a holiday together that went wrong. Something happened on that holiday and they haven't seen each other for 2 years. And at the beginning of the book, one of the main characters has reached out to say, let's try it again, let's have our week's holiday together and see what happens. And I'm assuming that I don't know what happened 2 years ago, but they're going to fall in love. It's going to be an amazing week together. It's going to be great. And I'm just ready for the romance and I'm assuming because it's Emily Henry and the way that she did Beach Read, she sort of interweaved, it wasn't just a cutesy romance, it had like real world things in it. So I'm hoping that those elements are also interwoven here as well. Yeah, the final book that I'm interested in May is A Master of Gin by P. Jelly Clark, and this is also coming out on the 11th. I have not read the two novellas yet which precede this book, but I'm very intrigued by them, particularly because I've heard this referenced in regards to, if you like, the David Badger trilogy, which is one of my favourite trilogies. And I think it's referenced because it has similar influences. So this is set in Cairo, and so it was that series. And it also just sounds really good. And my friend Sam has read this, and he read the novellas and he really liked them. And so that has given me high hopes for this. And so this is the first full-length book following these novellas, and it's set, I haven't looked too much into the plot because I didn't want to spoil myself the novellas, but I know that it is set in Cairo in the 1900s, and I believe there's a murder mystery going on, there's magic. It really was the setting that has driven me to be intrigued by this book, as well as, I mean, I love it when there's murder mystery and magic all interwoven into a book together. So I'm very intrigued by this one as well. So moving on into June, the first book in June that I'm really interested in is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have enjoyed Daisy Jones and the Six and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So I thought it would be appropriate to continue reading her books. I haven't read any of her backlist, but I am definitely intrigued by Malibu Rising. I feel it's got the same sort of vein as her last two releases, that it's got this sort of concept of fame interwoven into it. And I believe this is following like a family in Malibu, and at the beginning of the book they host a party. It's a massive party, but the party ends in a fire. And I guess it's the looking in on these rich, wealthy people in Malibu. I don't know what it is about Taylor Jenkins Reid, but she makes her characters seem very real. Like they feel as though they're real people. So I'm definitely intrigued by where this is going to go, and how you feel as though these are real celebrities that you could meet. And well, not, you don't really meet celebrities, but they could be like real people. So I'm definitely intrigued to see where this goes. And I really like the cover. I really like the colours that like decorate it, like the colours on the cover are really pretty. And then on the 10th of June, the Jasmine Throne is coming out. This is by Tasha Suri. I read and really enjoyed the Books of Amber by this author, and this is a new book for her in a new world. It's a new trilogy that she's starting. This sounds so good. So you are following, I believe, 2 characters. It's set in a Indian inspired world, so similarly to the Books of Amber, and I haven't read that many Indian inspired fantasy, so I feel like it's really good to see that published more. Again, this is published by Orbit, and Orbit is doing so well. Love Orbit. It's inspired by the history and epics of India, and there's a captive princess, and I think she's trying to rise up against her brother who's like ruling the kingdom, and he's not very good. He's a dictator and something, so she wants to try and escape from him. And so you're following her and her maidservant, and her maidservant is like in possession of some forbidden magic, and they become allies on this journey together to get rid of her brother, the princess's brother, who's a dictator. I've heard that it is a sapphic romance between the princess and the maidservant, which really intrigues me, and both them as characters and their roles really interest me. Like I really love reading about princesses and maidservants, and that whole dynamic really interests me, and seeing how their relationship progresses from that, and how like their dynamic and what they're trying to do is going to change the fate of the empire in this Indian inspired world. Like, sign me up. And I mean, I trust Tasha Suri after reading her first duology. Like, I trust that she's going to do a good job, and I believe that she is Indian or from Indian heritage, and so I think that she'll write the representation very well. On the 22nd of June, Witch Shadow by Susan Dennard is coming out. So I have read and enjoyed the whole of the Witchland series so far, starting with Truth Witch, and this is I guess it's borderline YA adult series. You've got 2 main protagonists. One is a truth witch and one is a thread witch, and so you have different witches with different powers in this world, and the truth witch is able to see if someone is telling the truth, and the thread witch is able to see like the people's lives and like seeing how they all link together and the threads of their lives. And so the first book, it's really a story of sisterhood and their friendship. Like friendship is really at the forefront of this book, as well as magic, and there is like romance interspersed throughout it, and the world definitely develops from the first book. So in the first book you have kingdoms that are after the truth witch because it's a very rare power, and they want to be able to use her to like create agreements between the kingdoms and see who's telling the truth and who's not telling the truth. And she's like, I just don't want to have that responsibility. I don't want to be involved in all this politics. But it really does expand from there, and you see how the world completely expands and develops. So I'm very interested in reading this 4th installment in the series. So there's been 3 books published as well as a novella, and I'm really interested in seeing how it progresses. I really like the magic in the world and the lore and the way that is explored, so definitely interested to see how it develops even further. I feel like it's been ages since we've had a book published in this series, so I definitely need a little bit of a refresher and like just a quick catch up on where we're at. And then the final book that I'm interested that is coming out in the month of June is The Last Graduate, which is coming out on the 29th by Naomi Novik. So I read A Deadly Education, which is the first book in the Scholomans last year, and I liked it. I didn't love it. Like, it wasn't my favourite book, but I think I want to give the series another chance and keep trying with it. I think it was a bit of a clunky start to a series. That the writing was a bit weird. Like, it was different to how she'd written Uprooted and Spinning Silver, and there was a lot of critique of the series when it came out. But I'm really intrigued by it. Like, I liked the setting. I liked being in this deadly school that was filled with monsters, and it was either like graduate or die. I liked the character development. I didn't really like the character at the beginning, but I liked the way she progressed, and definitely how it ended. I'm intrigued to see where the series goes. So I believe this will just expand upon the world, and I think that's what this series needs. Like, it needs expansion and it needs a bit more explanation, because the first book is very focused on this school and we don't really know that much about what is going on outside of school, and I think that's where it might have been lacking a bit, that there wasn't that much extra world building outside of the school setting. So potentially having that would help and would explain things a little bit more. So I am definitely intrigued to see where Naomi Novik goes with it, and just seeing what happens next, but yeah, particularly after the ending. So those are the 10 new releases that I am very interested to get to in the next 3 months. If there are any new books that you are really interested in that I haven't mentioned here, then please let me know, because undoubtedly there are going to be new releases that I have not heard of and would be really, really interested in, and just they're just not on my radar. Like, it's so hard to look through Goodreads and see what's coming out. Like, there's so many books coming out that it's a bit of overwhelming when you're like, which ones are going to interest me? But these ones are the ones that I picked out that are so far high on my radar that I'm really interested in reading. So let me know if you're reading any of these, if there are other ones that you're really interested in. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in my future videos. Bye!